What's up guys, you're watching Degreeless Engineering, a channel where we engineer using experience. This episode we're talking about the Raise3D BuildTak build sheets. Let's get to it. There's several ways to go about it. There's PI build plates and powder coated build plates, not specifically for this printer, but they are out there and they will fit to an extent, right? I personally have the tools and the material to do something a little bit different, and what I want to do is powder coat my own build sheet. I've been using Prusa's powder coated textured build sheets for a while, and I absolutely love them. I've had one for almost 2 years now, no issues, beating the hell out of the thing, you know, scrubbing it with hot soapy water, no issues, doesn't skip a beat. So what I want to do is I want to powder coat this using this Eastwood hot coat powder coating powder. This is a black textured powder coat, and I've used this on my Forerunner mud flat brackets that I made out of stainless steel, and it turned out great. It's not a real aggressive texture. It's kind of like, it's just above a satin. So first thing I want to do is remove this little plasticky rubber little grip here. So I'm going to attempt to drill out these little rivets here. That way I can clean this thing really well, get it prepped up and ready for coating. So let's do that now. If I was a betting man, I would say that these are probably 1/8 inch rivets or something comparable to that, the Chinesium standard. Because these are kind of rounded on both sides, I'm going to attempt to just center punch these with a spring punch, and hopefully they don't spin in the hole. If they do, I'll try to grab the other side with some vice grips. Let's do that now. So I've got my drill, my center punch, my vice grips, my bit. Let's have at this thing. All right, so I'm going to try to get in the center. This thing's kind of slippery. Beautiful. Man, that was nice. Real soft metal. I've never done this on one of these sheets. I've never done this on any build sheet before. So, but this powder coat, it's rated for, I mean, it softens and it flows at 400 degrees. We're never really going to get anywhere near that with a build sheet. So it should, in theory, perform pretty well. I mean, most powder coats are around the same temperature, 375 to 400, maybe 400 plus. There are some high temp stuff out there. There's some high temp stuff out there, but, you know, not really a concern of ours. And of course it's spinning. So let's do our best to try to grab the other side. If I can't grab this, what I'm going to do is just try to hit this with a grinding wheel and just cut it off. And I don't think I'm going to be able to grab this. Maybe. Let's try it. Let's get this set to the right width. Squish it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's soft. Hot metal. It's probably just going to slip, and I'm going to send the drill through my hand. That son of a bitch is still slipping, huh? It's literally just spinning through. It's just spinning through the rubber. So we're just going to cut this off and say, you know, there we go. Boom, baby. So if you're going to do this and you want to try to get this rubber guy off, wow, it actually stretched around the rivet. You know, good luck. I didn't tear it, so I could technically use like a button head and like a nylock nut on the other side. I might do that. Anyways, we're gonna have to grind these guys off or cut these off somehow. So let me get the tools for that. So I've got these snips. Quick work. Whoa, watch your eyes. All right, there we go. Problem 1 solved. So now we've got this thing plastic free. We're probably going to use one of these holes and maybe a gator clip or something, maybe even like a vice grip on the very edge to be able to get some sort of wire to hang this in the oven once we bake it with powder coat. We'll get to that later. First things first, let's get this thing super clean, get it hung and ready for coating. So I've already washed this thing with soap and water, just dish soap, and oh my God. Be careful with this thing, by the way. It is as sharp as it would be for as cheap as these machines are made. I'm just gonna clean it with this acetone. Get it from your local hardware store, just straight acetone. Obviously be careful of this stuff. You should wear gloves, you should wear a mask in a ventilated area. I'm not gonna do that. So I'm just gonna wipe this off really well on both sides with acetone and a paper towel. If there's a little bit of lint on there, a little bit of residue, it's not a big deal. That's not gonna show through the texture anyways. It would have to be real severe for it to cause a problem. So we're just gonna get it as clean as we can get it with some acetone and try to prevent laying it down flat once we do that. So I think what I decided to do instead of trying to use vice grips or something, I'm just gonna drill a small hole, probably right here dead center, and use that as a place to hook a piece of wire so we can hang this thing up in the oven. Hopefully it works out. I think it'll work out better because I can go through both of these holes and through this rear hole, and instead of it hanging this way in the oven, we could hang it this way, which I think would be better because, you know, there's only so much room in a standard conventional like home oven. So we're just gonna kind of look, okay. That looks about right. All right, keep it on a nice sturdy surface, 1/8 inch again. There we go. Nice hole through my table. That's what it's there for. All right, so then I'm going to hit that with a deburring tool. Let's go ahead and do that now. Don't need to go too crazy with it. Just gotta get that rough edge off there. Let's get it back over my fancy little hole I made. A bit more. That'll work. And it's still a little rough. It's always more rough. Always more rough on the back side, isn't it? There we go. Now we got a fancy little hole to hang this with. So now I'm gonna hang it up, get it clean with some acetone, and show you how we make the magic happen as far as adding the coat to this bitch. So this is how I've got it wired up. Just some standard ook, or however you pronounce that. Some galvanized wire I had laying around. You can use welding wire. You might be able to use a coat hanger. It might be a little too thick, hard to work with, but just some cheap wire from the hardware store. Went through that hole I drilled, through these 2 holes here, and just bent it over so it keeps it nice and flat. And then I'll add a little bend there, put a little hook, and hang that over like the heating element bracket. So before we start powder coating, I kind of want to show you my setup here. I have an air compressor. It's like a small pancake style air compressor that I got a while ago, but I don't have an air compressor based powder coating gun. What I do have is this dude that I've had for years. I think originally it was labeled as a Craftsman powder coating gun, but I guess as soon as they realized they weren't the best quality, I think they dropped this from their name. You can still find these on occasion on eBay, I think, but I think they're less common They're not as common as they used to be, but basically it's just a fan in the rear that just blows air through this little chamber here where you actually load the powder across this, I guess you'd call it an electrode, but that's what charges the particles and sticks to the part. Now you have your little transformer here. I'm not going to unravel it completely. This plugs into the back of the gun. This plugs into a standard outlet or extension cord. Then you have your little ground wire. It's on an alligator clip. And while it doesn't work the greatest, it still gets the powder to stick. And it does pretty well. I mean, I've used it on my motorcycle. I did my motorcycle tank myself, the forks. I just did those parts for my 4Runner. I've done a lot of stuff with this gun, and I think I spent 60 bucks on it. So you don't really need an air compressor with this if you can find one. So it's a great tool to have, like I said, if you can find one. I haven't looked in a while. You might have some luck with it. You might be able to find one used. Again, they're not the greatest quality machine or tool, but they do work. Son of a bitch. See what I'm saying? I wrestle with it a little bit, but I only use it every once in a while, so it's not like it's that big of a deal. This is the canister. Bring it around to you, show you. Cap just unscrews. Watch, it'll break. It'll break right when I'm trying to show you guys how it works. Explode in my hands. Don't want to breathe that stuff, but that's where you load the powder. You don't want to fill it up all the way. I usually fill it up about maybe halfway. It tends to flow a little bit better when you do that. I already did some textured coat, so I'm just going to add a little bit more to this, and we're going to let it rip. Should you have an oven dedicated to doing powder coating on small scale? Probably. Are you going to die if you don't? No. Is it good for you? Probably not. But I've done it enough. Open up windows, open up doors, have some cross flow, maybe put some fans up. Just let it rip. It'll be fine. If you're doing it every day and you're trying to make some money off of it, build yourself an oven, buy a cheap oven off of Marketplace or something. Don't do it in your house where you're cooking pizza and stuff for your family or even for yourself. It's just not smart. But if you're doing it every once in a while, it's fine. Just be smart. All right, so I've got my gun plugged up. Gonna connect my ground clip. I like to connect it to the actual part. Let's do it over here. Make sure it's not gonna get all tangled up and in the way. If you hear a little bit of noise, I live right off of a road. I think most people live right off a road. Right off of a highly driven road. That even makes sense. All right, so I like to clean the tip off a little bit and see the powder flowing, and I just start adding it to it. You don't want to go too thick in certain areas. You don't want to go too thin. You'll still see the metal shining through. You want to go thick enough to where you get good coverage, but not so thick to where you get fisheye. That's typically true with gloss coats. In this case, I don't think it matters that much. I do just want to make sure it's nice and thick and durable. How funny would it be if the railing broke right now and I just ate shit? Yeah, probably wear a mask when you do this as well. Nice and thick. You don't want to get this gun too close because it'll just blow the powder off. It stops like sticking very well. Wipe the tip off a little bit. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Oh my God. A huge clump of powder just flew out right onto it. Who gives a shit? Let's keep going. How's the saying go? You gotta have a few clumps to make an omelet. Jesus, that's a lot of powder. I'm just looking for thin spots. Almost out of powder. Almost out of powder. Got the oven preheating right now. But it looks pretty good. Maybe right there. It's just gonna have to be good enough. So you can't see it, but this powder is everywhere. If you're gonna be doing this a lot, have like a fan and maybe some like, you know, HVAC filters that can just draw this stuff away. A lot of people make like a little box where they can like hang their part and they can spray it and spin it and do all that stuff. I don't do it often enough to even worry about that. I don't have a lot of space for a powder coating booth. But what I do have is hooks on my front porch and an outlet over here. So that's what we did. Right now the oven is preheating to 450. It's what it calls for. So you put it at 450, stick the part in there. They say once it starts to flow, which I guess that means once it's wetted out, to drop it down to 400 and run it for 15 minutes, I believe. So we're gonna do that. I'm not gonna show you my oven, it's disgusting, but I will show you the finished product. And tomorrow will be the true test. We will actually put it in the printer and see how it does. So it's all cooled down, and this is the finished product. I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see the detail, but I think overall it turned out pretty good. There are some areas where the powder application was a little light and you could see the spring steel through it. But I don't think that's going to be a problem for the filament that I use, which is most commonly PETG, which tends to like a textured surface anyways. It may kind of impact the durability of the coating, but only time will tell. And we will be doing a true test tomorrow, which I'll get some footage of that on the actual Raise3D Pro3 to see how it does. Of course, I'm going to be using a little bit of glue stick and printing, you know, bed temps 85C. But that will be the tell-all. And I think it looks pretty sweet, especially for doing it out of my garage with a $60 powder coating gun and a bottle of powder that I borrowed from a friend. So we'll test it out, get some footage, let's check it out. So when I got to work, I threw this build sheet in the printer and it looks great, but more importantly, does it work? I dried my Polymaker Polylite PETG for about 4 hours at 70 degrees Celsius before printing, just to make sure it was nice and dry. I found this print on printables.com. It's a warp test, and I increased the size by about 20%. I put plenty of glue stick on there, about 3 passes. No different than what I would do at home on my Prusa textured sheet. And I did 3 perimeters, 15% infill, 85 degrees Celsius bed temp, and 240 filament temp all the way around. And no curling, no lifting, no warping, no delamination. I even tried so much as to dig my fingernail underneath it, of course, while it was still hot. That's where it counts. You want those high temps to make sure that that part or your print sticks nice and well. Here it is laying on the table. You can see everything's nice and flat. Of course, you might see some dings from my fingernail digging into it while it was warm, but overall it turned out great, and I think this bed is a huge success. Here's a little bit of the glue stick residue. You can see the adhesion there was about 90–95%. So all in all, I would say this is a huge success. Great bed adhesion, super durable, easy to clean, less headache, not having to change BuildTak film. I'm not having to reorder supplies, which take forever to get to me due to the loops and hoops I have to jump through with a corporate company that I work with. It just makes everything a lot easier than having to deal with a company like Raise3D, who has a lot of supplies that are constantly on back order. They're overpriced, they don't last. BuildTak, while some people would consider it to be a great product, maybe for certain types of low temp filaments, its claims that it can do upwards to, 115 degrees Celsius, where Raise3D says upwards 120 degrees Celsius, in my opinion, is total and utter bullshit. So with this powder coated sheet, I don't have to worry about that anymore, and I'm so happy that it actually has good bed adhesion. It's just gonna make my life a lot easier. All in all, I hope you guys got something from this. If you're planning on doing this at your house or doing it in a shop and you have any questions, please feel free to reach out in the comments below. If you like this video, please like, subscribe. I'm trying to do my best to post more content like this that you guys can get something out of, because ultimately I just want to teach the masses like the masses on YouTube have taught me. So again, this is Degreeless Engineering, where we engineer using experience. Thanks for watching. My next video is going to be on how I'm going to get my cat to stop climbing the fucking screened-in porch.